I was born in 2003. And that's like pretty close to when the Xbox 360 and the PS3 were first released. So, with their lifespans being as long as they were, I mean, it was a long ass time before the PS4 and the Xbox One came out. I ended up getting an Xbox 360 a couple years after it was released, probably like 2010 maybe. But I always had heard about one mythical game because I played a lot of games on it, a bunch of games, but there was one game that I never got a chance to play on the 360, and I heard people talk about it a lot. And they all said that it was one of the hardest games ever released, and that it was a game that you couldn't finish either because you'd get so mad at it or because you wouldn't be good enough to beat it. And I'm guessing from either the title or what I am describing, you can already assume that it is, of course, Dark Souls. These games are known for their difficulty and also the fan community that absolutely loves these games and will not stop talking about them. It was made by a game company called FromSoftware, which nowadays is, of course, a legendary gaming company that have made Dark Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Elden Ring. You know all the games. And these games are amazing. But back in the day when Demon's Souls was first released, they were just another small indie developer doing the same thing as everyone else, and they weren't really picking up the traction. Before we dive into the present, and nowadays, I think it's important to look at the past of FromSoftware and see where they started from before Demon's Souls and before all the hype with their games. Because I think it's important to see why so many people love these games, and of course, myself included, because I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't. So they released a bunch of like small games, like shooters, RPGs, and some other stuff. But the one that is the closest to the Demon's Souls and the Dark Souls bloodline is a game called Kingsfield. It was released in 1994, so the game is very, very old. But, it is very similar because it is hard like the other games are, and it has, like, swords, and it has, like, magic, and it also has a staple of the FromSoftware stamp, which is the Moonlight Greatsword. The game was actually a success for FromSoftware, and they actually ended up making a whole series out of the Kingsfield, and we have 3 Kingsfield games that are out currently. They are very old and they're still hard to play, but they're also very janky because they're on the PS1, so it's to be expected. Like I said, though, they made other games as well, like other shooters, other RPGs, and games with like quick time events, which are very, very, very popular in the mid 2000s for some reason. But everything changed when one man joined the team. He was actually an account manager for a while before recommended to play a game, and when he played it, he loved it so much that he actually switched careers to become a game developer. He joined the team in 2004. He's there for a couple years, working on some games to a mild success. But then he hears about one specific game that gets him very, very excited and piques his interest. When FromSoftware was making the game, they considered it to be a failure. So he came on and wanted to take kind of control of it, kind of like put his spin on it. And FromSoftware was like, yep, it's a failure. Go right ahead. So that's exactly what he did. He put his spin on it. And when the game was released, it actually did release as a failure, just as everyone expected, until it was released to the Western audience when it became a massive hit. So if you don't know this fun little tale, this is the tale of Demon's Souls and its creator, Hidetaka Miyazaki. He is a legend now in the Soulsborne community as being the creative mind behind all of the like Soulsborne games to follow Demon's Souls. All these games really transformed and defined a generation of gaming, from the 3 Dark Souls games to the horrific Bloodborne to the mid-century Japan to now the newest open world Elden Ring. These games are actually so popular that they've created their own subgenre dubbed the Soulsborne games. And these games normally are RPGs, and they are very, very hard games normally. And sometimes the story can be a little hard to follow, sometimes not. That's like, you can kind of leave that out. Some do, some don't. But these games will always be defined by their difficulty. And now, in my opinion, the $1 million question is, what made these games so influential, and how did FromSoftware put out hit after hit after hit to such wide success? A massive thing that makes these games so popular is how different they were. When these games were released, games were holding your hand. It was like hard to die. When you did die, the game just felt kind of janky. You didn't really feel like it was your fault. But with FromSoftware and their games, they were very polished, and they did not hold your hand, like, at all. That was a major staple of their games, where, like, did not hold your hand. You had to figure it out through trial and error. Basically speaking, they just kind of threw you in the deep end, and you really had to figure it out, which at the time was almost unheard of. Another thing that Demon's Souls had that has been followed up on and made better through each game is the combat. It feels like a dance that you have to master. Also, where deaths don't feel like a bad thing that you get punished for. I mean, obviously you do get punished for it in some way, but it's more just of a learning tool, a process that comes with the game. Like, you do not expect to go into a Dark Souls game or a Soulsborne game and you do not expect to die. That's just not heard of. You are going to die. Death comes with navigating the world and fighting the enemies. And speaking on the enemies, they all feel handcrafted and made with such love by FromSoftware. And then the areas you fight them in and you explore are second to none with the amount of detail and the Easter eggs and the amount of cool stuff you can just find in these areas. You can spend hours and hours getting lost in this game and exploring and having so much fun. And with all the enemies, they all actually feel like a threat. And the reason is, that's because they are. If you get cocky, careless, or you're surprised and they surprise attack you, you can easily die. It's insanely easy. And you can get annoyed when the run back is kind of far to get there. But it is just so much fun. And that goes for all the Soulsborne games that are currently out right now. Then going back to the areas, they all just feel so hopeless, and they all just fill you with such dread. So you want to know, you're curious about what happened to this world. You are curious, so it keeps bringing you back, and you just want to know. The game fills you with a sense of immersion that just keeps bringing you back and back and back. And like I said, you can spend hours and hours and hours in these games getting lost in the combat, in the actual world itself, in the lore. There is so much to look into and do in these games. But I think one of the biggest parts of these games, and a massive part for me, is the bosses inside of the worlds themselves, obviously. I loved so much fighting these bosses and either killing them on my first try or spending the hours and hours grinding on them to finally be able to conquer them. And obviously some of these bosses live in infamy. I'm going to name off a few that you just might have heard of. We have Artorias, we have Gwen, we have Funite, and of course the Nameless King. I have memories I will never ever forget of fighting the Nameless King in Dark Souls 3 and how hard that was. One that sticks out for me is the feeling I had when I first conquered the Nameless King, because I remember hearing about him as the hardest boss in Dark Souls 3 at that time, because the final DLC was not out yet, or I think neither of the two DLCs were out yet at this point. And he was crowned as the hardest boss in the game at that point. And by the time this had been going on, I had fought him for on and off of 2 days. It was definitely 2 days of dying and learning and dying and learning and even more dying. When I finally beat him, I had no Estus Flask left. I had barely any health left, and that final hit I got on him, I jumped out of my chair. I was screaming. I was like jumping around like I just won the fucking like World Series for some crazy ass fucking sport that's hard as hell. It was a feeling I will never forget that this game brought me. It was one of the best feelings I think I've ever gotten from playing a video game. And I know people that have played these games will attest to similar feelings for these games. They are obviously extremely hard, but the payoff for playing and going through and beating these bosses and beating these games is so massive. No other video game before or after FromSoftware has offered that feeling to me. On top of the Nameless King memory, there are so many others I could share that I popped off or I got pissed off and was like, okay, I have to take a break, or there's just so many memories that come with these games. And going along with fighting these bosses, there are so many different ways to play these games as well, because like I said, the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring, they all have like swords and different weapons besides swords, and they also have magic as well. It offers just so many ways to play and so many different experiences for different people, because there's like so many different things you can use or things you can try out to use. I think it's a fantastic experience. I think at least all gamers should try at least once. We obviously have 4 different series, so that means we have 4 completely different stories to go through. And one thing that rings true for all of them is as you play through the story, they give you bits and pieces of it, but to really grasp the full story, you have to talk to all the NPCs, exhaust all of their dialogue, obviously play through the whole game. You have to read into item descriptions and make your own assumptions of what happened as well. And I know it probably sounds confusing, and the reason is, it is confusing. And that's a big reason the Soulsborne YouTubers have done so well, because they have put the time in digging into these games throughout the lore and finding the stories and putting them out on YouTube for everyone to watch in one cohesive piece. And with the whole story there, it just makes the game even better on top of how amazing it already is. And I think that's another huge thing that sets FromSoftware completely out of left field from everyone else, because not a lot of other developers do this, and especially not at the time that these games were released. They truly did not hand feed you anything, and that even goes with the story as well. And a lot of other developers that have made similar Soulsborne games, or other games in general, have taken off the back of FromSoftware and what they've done and the success they've had with these stories, and they've done similar things to them as well. And I'm not a huge soundtrack person when it comes to video games. I'm kind of just like whatever to it. My brain kind of turns off and focuses on the combat. But listening to the soundtracks in these games is amazing. You can tell that all of these songs have been handcrafted with love for each of the bosses or for each of the areas that you're in. And like I said, ever since Demon's Souls, when it got released to the Western market, these games have been released to wide success. And these games only are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes along. They are becoming more and more infamous. It's crazy how a small failure project has turned into a generation-defining series that can produce YouTubers that make videos on their games and that bring in millions and millions of views. I mean, one massive thing that Elden Ring just did was they beat out Call of Duty Vanguard in sales for the United States, which is just crazy because Call of Duty normally takes the number 1 spot for the year as the best-selling game, but FromSoftware beat them. Elden Ring beat Call of Duty out. And I think that speaks to how popular these games are obviously becoming and how much love the community shows for these games. And I think a big reason to why they keep finding this lightning in a bottle and it wasn't just a one-hit wonder is because of the creator, Miyazaki. He is the directive head and the mind behind all of these games. He puts hours and hours and hours into making these games and making them, they're obviously not perfect, but they're pretty damn close. And I think without him, this series would have died off a long time ago. I don't think it would ever even started without him. So a huge reason to why these games are succeeding is because of him. So with these games getting bigger and bigger and being shown to more and more people, I'm really hoping that even more people can join in on the hype train, can play these games, can go through and experience what everyone else has, because it is so hard, but it is also so rewarding. It is by far the most rewarding game I have ever played. And I really wish that every gamer could at least give these games a try, because even the first 3 Dark Souls, they're all probably like 20 or 30 bucks. So I really hope everyone that watches this video can please just they can give it a try. And if Dark Souls isn't right for you in the medieval times, they have other games as well, like Bloodborne, like I said, which is a gothic horror video game. And if you don't like that, we can go to ninjas and medieval Japan, where it is fast-paced combat, and my personal opinion, is the best one that they've released. Or if that doesn't work for you, like I said, we have our newest title, Elden Ring, which is now an open world masterpiece that you can sink hours and hours in exploring and having so much fun. These games mean so much to me, if I've not already made that clear throughout the video, and they mean so much to other people as well. And I know I probably missed some things, but in the FromSoftware sense, I'm going to send you guys out there to go discover things I missed, because nothing can compete better than playing these games and doing it on your own. They really flipped gaming culture on their head when they were first released, and they just keep improving and improving and bringing in new stuff and just being absolutely fucking amazing. They have so much replay value, and these games have definitely defined a generation of gamers. And the people that play these games will look back with such fond memories of the times that these games brought them from conquering them. And that's exactly why people keep coming back to these games, to keep getting that feeling and to keep going with it, because it is so amazing. These games are truly awesome experiences, and they are by far one of my favorite games ever released, like of all time. So please go try them. Go try them, definitely. Just go try them. They have definitely brought me a lot of anger. But on top of that anger, they have brought me an immense sense of joy and just straight fucking awesomeness. Like, it's just fucking so cool. At the end of the day, a small company doing the same thing as everyone else completely changed with one game, and now have become known for creating wonderful bosses, amazing stories, and obviously some of the most difficult games in all of gaming. I hope I have convinced you to play at least one of these games, at least one of them. And if you have already played them, let me know down in the comments below. How did I do describing the feeling of playing them, or how do you think I did? Just let me know down below. Do you think I did a good job of describing why they are so popular? Just let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, obviously. Please click subscribe, because I am planning on doing some more long-form content like this in the future. I found it very fun putting everything together, trying to write out the script, because normally I'd go in just fucking head first with barely any script, just like bullet points of what I needed to say. But I actually sat down, wrote a script, thought everything out for this video, and I really enjoyed it. I think that I'm definitely going to do it again. I think the next video is going to be one about Call of Duty. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it will be about the Call of Duty franchise. And if you're excited for that, hit subscribe, because you know it will be coming. I'm not going to give you a timeline on it, because even I don't fucking know. Even I don't know when this is being put out. I'm recording this on Saturday, May 21st. That's today's date. Yes, it is. So I won't even give you a timeline on when it will be coming out, because I don't know. But guys, I hope that you have a fan-fucking-tastic day. And like always, guys, deuces.